Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting for 9 a.m. Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Dare is in Salem today, a local government advisory committee. I think that's the health authority is the topic there that she's involved in. So at this time, citizen input for any items not on the agenda as a public hearing. Do we have anyone online? Okay, seeing none. Our consent agenda, 3 items here today.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
And I will second that. Any other discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote, Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Vice Chair will vote yes. Thank you. Item number 4, final public hearing on formation of Tumalo Basin Sewer District. Thank you very much. Oh, okay. So there was a request to tell us about the fair, but that'll be kind of other items at the end of the meeting.
Morning, Commissioners. Dave Doyle, County Attorney. This is the time set for the board to entertain any written objections that may have been filed asking for an election on this matter. Staff is unaware of any objections that have been filed. We did receive one comment late last night. That's in front of you. I made a copy of it. It was an email from Nunzi Gould questioning essentially the boundaries that are being drawn up for this. So at this point, staff would recommend that you open the public hearing to the extent you have anyone here that wishes to provide further testimony. That would be the time for that. In addition, the proponents of this, their team is here in the room. I'm sure to the extent you have any questions, they'd be able to address those to you. I will remind you that the board's role in this is if you believe that the boundaries should either be reduced or expanded, and that's based on criteria in the county code, including the county comprehensive plan and land use and zoning codes. That would be the time for you to potentially do that. If you were to do that, that would necessitate a subsequent public hearing as well and would re-trigger the opportunity for folks to file written objections seeking to send this to the next election. I would point out if it went that route, it would miss the November election because we're right up against the deadlines for that. So if you were to approve formation of the district today, and I have an order with me that you would sign if you're amenable and choose to do that, they would have time to get this on the November ballot. If for some reason you don't take a final action today, then that wouldn't happen. So
it's a choice between accepting the proposal as written, public hearing following our discussion right now, and if approved, that's the end of the process. The formation of the district is complete.
Correct. The district would be formed upon signing of the order that we have here. If there are 14 or more written objections requesting that it go to an election and they're verified by the clerk as being electors within the proposed district, then it would move to the next election, which again would be in November. And then the third option is if for some reason you were to continue this process, then any option for an election in November would go away. And if it had to go the election route, it would be a subsequent one, which I believe is March, I think might be the next one that would be available for that.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
And so, Dave, I mean, that was less broadly than that. I mean, really, the question is, do we support or do we object to, or, do we have concerns about the boundary that has been proposed?
Correct. In light of the fact we don't have any written objections seeking an election.
Okay, so this is a final public hearing on the formation of the Tumalo Basin Sewer District. And referring to final, this is the second hearing. A first hearing was on July 17th, laying out the content of the proposal. So being a public hearing, is there anyone here to speak on this matter? Is there anyone online? Please use the raise hand feature if you are online and following this. So seeing no testimony at this time. We did receive this email, and I think the content talks, there may be a few items here. I didn't study it in detail, but the definition of the Tumalo unincorporated community boundary map. I think that's the content of it. My understanding is it's the original platted Tumalo area, older than all the cities in Central Oregon here, well, in Deschutes County at least. So that is the footprint. It's that Tumalo unincorporated community plat. Yeah, any other comments, or this is the public hearing portion?
I'll hold comments until after the public hearing.
Okay, yeah, so we'll close the public hearing at this time. Thank you for the participation of the committee that's put this in front of us. Yeah, any comments then?
I would say that I really, when the proponents behind the district came and presented to us a few weeks ago, I was really impressed with the approach to community engagement and outreach, and essentially letting people opt in and opt out along the way, and tailoring the boundaries of the initial district to property owners' preferences. Really, I thought that was a great way to avoid some of the suspicions, conspiracy theories, and other things that we saw during the formation of the Terrebonne sanitary district. So with that, if one of the key questions for us today is, do we support this boundary, the proposed boundary or not? I'd just like to express great appreciation for the methodology that was used to produce this boundary, and to express 100% support for the boundary that's been proposed.
Great. And then, a couple other observations. The commercial core is the kind of one of the main drivers here. There's opportunities for existing buildings and future development in the commercial core. Also protecting the river in the floodplain area, the current platted properties, residential in the area. And also just a statement, this is just the beginning, obviously. Creating a district is just the beginning. But we're working our way through the process.
Commissioners, in light of that, I have board order number 2024-025 in order to form the Tumalo Basin Sewer District. I can provide it to Brenda, and if the board's inclined to make a motion and vote on approval of that order, that would wrap this up today.
Okay. I will move approval of order number 2024-025, approving formation of the Tumalo Sewer District.
I think the name's going to be Tumalo Basin Sewer District. The official name.
Tumalo Basin Sewer
Yep,
District.
there we go.
And directing an election, or?
There's no election.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the creation.
Yeah. Okay. Formation of the Tumalo Basin Sewer District.
And I will second it. Any other discussion?
No.
Calling for the vote, Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Congratulations. Quite a process. There we go. This is those long-term plays. And as I say, the original platted Tumalo area, pretty amazing, 100 and something years later. So
You commissioners.
thank you.
Dave, could I ask just one more question? So the boards, the identification of board members for the new district. So that's done as part of this order, or? Okay. That will be, that is going to happen in November. So that's the election that will happen in
Correct.
November.
And if I'm not mistaken, they have until I believe the 27th of August, but they might want to touch base with Steve upstairs to
Okay.
make sure their time.
Well, can anybody explain that process? The fact that, if there's a resident in the area, somebody that's heard about this, now's the time to get engaged, to be on that first board. So I guess that's the answer right there. Yeah, Nancy, if you're available. Somebody experienced in election process.
Good morning, commissioners and all. I'm Nancy Blankenship, retired county clerk. And if the processes have not changed, candidates can file with the Deschutes County clerk. There's a small fee, I believe it's $10, different than if when you guys are filing. And then that has to be submitted to the county clerk by August 27th at 5 p.m. And they can also participate in a voter's pamphlet if they'd like to as well.
So 20 days from now.
Yeah.
Here we go. Now we have that window. Thank you very much for that clarification. Hopefully people are following this process. Okay, thank you so much. Congratulations. Item number 5, we're a little bit ahead of schedule here today, but item number 5, discussion about authorizing increased change funds maintained for solid waste department.
Good morning, Commission members. For the record, Tim Brownell, Director of Solid Waste Department for the Deschutes County. This item in front of you is resolution number 2024-039, authorizing an increase in the change funds maintained by the Solid Waste Department. This is under Administrative Finance Policy number F8. It requires department cash funds to be authorized by the Board of County Commissioners. As you are aware, we expanded our operations and opened a new facility up at the Negus transfer station, where we now have two scale houses, one on the recycling side of the operations where we're having customer transactions and taking funds and fees, and a new scale house up at that location. So we have 5 facilities throughout our network with Northwest, Southwest, Negus, Knott, and Alfalfa transfer station. But now we have 6 cash tills that we have to maintain balance on a daily basis. So what we're asking for is an increase of our cash funds from $4,200 to $5,000. So we have enough cash to set our daily tills, as well as whenever we make a change in our fee structure, which we just did. We moved from $70 a ton to $80 a ton, and it's broken up into increments. And in particular, the minimum charge increment went from $14 to $16, which really changed what type of change you give for a 20.
Mm-hmm.
So over the last month and a half, we've come to assess what are our cash needs, and this is the recommendation that staff has made in order to make sure that we have enough cash on a daily basis to both cover our deposits when we make them and have cash for the next day to be able to have enough cash to make through the day, as well as make change over the weekend.
I think I've been to this South Transfer Station where they're asking for 5s or 1s too, you know, because later in the day, sometimes they may not have the right.
Yeah, you'll see that sign on the window.
Yep.
Tim, this all makes sense to me. I have just to try to connect a few dots. I have one question. So you had an audit review by the audit committee, you know, not too far back, and did this kind of cash handling stuff? Was it reviewed as part of that audit process?
Yes. Our cash handling and our charges are all fall under those audits, and they look at how do we both handle those, how do we reconcile cash on a daily basis, and our charges, also reporting if we have variances, and how those variances are reported and reviewed within the department. So, for example, every day I get any sort of notification if we're over $2 or under $8 in cash or charges. Yeah.
And so there were no concerns about cash handling at the time.
No,
of the
not
audit,
at this time.
And adding another $800 in the mix isn't a concern of any kind.
No.
Great. Is there a motion?
Move approval of resolution number 2024-039, raising the solid waste department change fund by $800 and bringing the fund total to $5,000.
And I will second it. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Item number 6, intergovernmental agreement with Ben Lapine Schools to continue the Healthy Schools program collaboration. Healthy Schools Program.
Yes, we are here. Jessica Jacks, Program Manager, Deschutes County Health Services.
Sean Reinhardt, Executive Director, Student Services, Bend Lapine Schools.
And we are here to seek your approval and signature on an intergovernmental agreement with Bend Lapine Schools for Healthy Schools. We have a match contribution in the total of $474,026. That match is a combination of state grants and county general fund, and that was approved in the fiscal year 25 budget. Healthy Schools, just as a reminder for viewers, is a collaboration between the county and Bend Lapine Schools that puts public health expertise in the school setting. We are seeing positive program outcomes now that we're really excited about, and we'll be back in the fall to go into more detail about our annual report. But just to share some of those things, we are seeing decreases in students feeling depressed, stressed, anxious from before to at this point in time in Healthy Schools. We're also seeing the number of behavioral health care referrals for students that actually result in appointment to those behavioral health specialists increasing. And that is a direct connection to what we're seeing in the emergency department. We're actually seeing some reductions in students presenting in the emergency departments with suicide-related behaviors amongst ages 11 to 17. And that's when comparing schools with Healthy Schools to schools without Healthy Schools. So we're really excited about some of the things that we're seeing, have more to share on that, but today just looking to finalize that contract. This one is 1 year. We've had, the prior contract was 3 years. This one we are just conducting in 1 year increment because we are anticipating some potential grant funding that will change our allocation in future years. And I'll be back in the next couple of weeks to discuss that opportunity with you. But right now, we're here to answer any questions that you might have about this particular intergovernmental agreement.
Questions? Oh, just, you know, I'll be supporting this in support of our budget process. I always kind of question this process. We have other school districts, Redmond Sisters, we have homeschooling, we have, you know, private schools. You know, this is Bend Lapine School District, big effort. Yeah, I always kind of struggle with this topic. You know, we saw a notification of a success advocating for a counselor in the Southern Deschutes County and Lapine area, which means, you know, we've hired somebody to point out that we need another counselor, which the school district did provide, but that was just us providing resources to tell another entity to provide more resources. So I just, I struggle with this sometimes.
I'm really glad to hear that we are seeing these positive program results related to suicidal ideation, behavioral health referrals, and reduced stress, depression, and anxiety. I'm very excited to hear more. And yeah, to me, an approval of this IGA is just a formalization of budget decisions that were made during budget week this year in May. So with that, I'll move approval of document number 2024-467, an intergovernmental agreement with Bend Lapine Schools for the Healthy Schools program.
And I will second it. So as I say, I said my piece. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Thank you very much. So with that, calling for the vote, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you so much. Item number 7, acceptance of Oregon Health Grant Agreement. Jail diversion funding.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Holly Harris, Behavioral Health Director for Deschutes County Behavioral Health.
And Nicole Von Leven, Program Manager for the Crisis Team at Deschutes County Behavioral Health. So Nicole started in her new role as of August 1st, so you'll be seeing her up here, I'm sure, quite a bit. So just want to welcome her to her new role. For this item, we are here to request the board move approval of board signature document 2024-607. It's an OHA agreement, an amendment to our OHA contract. Essentially, this really came about in the short session through all the discussions around deflection. And while this particular pot of money was specific to CMHPs as part of our existing jail diversion efforts, so service element 09, which is the service element that's funded our jail diversion program for forever. We've actually had a jail diversion program since about 2015, very successful program. And what we learned through all these deflection conversations is really CMHPs have been doing deflection for a very, very long time. We call it diversion, but it's really one and the same. And so the legislature recognized that this particular service element was underfunded. We were never quite whole on that service element. And they also recognized there would be quite a bit of overlap in our service provision for this population. So we're appreciative of the investment. It is one-time funding. And looks like the one-time funding for Deschutes County is $401,779. So I'm hopeful that this funding will continue beyond this session, but we'll wait and see. Happy to answer any questions.
Could you help with a simple kind of scenario about who ends up in this system?
Sure. So you want to talk about?
There you go. Here's your opportunity.
These are the individuals that we're seeing getting rearrested for lower level crimes, and the jail is usually making referrals to this team or attorneys. Lots of community partners have grown to know the jail diversion team in our county. And so they are going out to their homeless camps or to any situation to help get that person connected to the next service. They're usually not the most willing individuals to trust the system. And so they work really hard to just provide support where they're at to get them to whatever that next step is.
And it's been very successful. Since this program began back in 2015, we've had about a 60% reduction in recidivism for the people served in that program. So it's a heavy case management, peer support model. So not necessarily therapy, clinical interventions, but really more of stabilizing their basic needs, building rapport and trust, like Nicole said, and then ultimately getting them to be successful and engaging in treatment.
Great. Yeah. So somebody that is known that keeps bouncing in and out of this.
Yeah. And it's really an effort to reduce contacts that law enforcement's having. We hope that these individuals will be working with us versus kind of coming up for law enforcement repeatedly.
So this is an existing diversion program, and this funding popped out of the deflection discussion. Just terminologies.
Yeah. Well, diversion in the behavioral health system and deflection in the criminal justice system are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really grateful for this funding because that service element has been the same since 2015. And our costs have not been the same since 2015. So this was really an effort to shore that gap up.
Can you give us a sense of, that this program element has been flat for a number of years? What kind of increase is 401,000?
It was pretty significant. I think I'll have to, now you're really challenging my brain. I've been out of the crisis role for just a minute. Nicole's brand new, but I believe if my memory serves me correct, we got around 750,000 for the biennium. So this is one time, and so it's basically kind of doubling our money for that year.
So this is in addition to
in addition to what we were already getting. So this is great. We definitely needed it, and it'll help shore up that gap. And most of our service elements, until very recently, had been flat for a very long time.
Yeah. Okay. And just kind of more bureaucratic detail, but there's the $700,000 that is coming for the to set up, to create and operate the deflection program. This is a parallel track that's complementary.
Yes. And so I think the legislature, what their thinking was, at least from my conversations with many of them, is that it kind of depends how your program is going to be set up across the state. But in some cases, community mental health programs are going to be heavily involved or leading those efforts. So this was a way to sort of carve out funding for existing jail diversion programs that would likely be heavily involved in that effort. But either way, and so I think it's just a recognition that regardless if we're leading it or involved, we're going to be involved in it one way or the other. And that money that came from the legislature to set up deflection programs is really the entire amount is needed to hire new staff, to really get those programs up and running. Those likely going to be going to law enforcement or nonprofits with, in our case, Best Care, Ideal Options. And so there really wasn't to include CMHPs in that bucket of money wouldn't have had that money go very far. So this was a separate bucket of money that came to support existing programs that would likely overlap with deflection programs that are being set up.
So, I mean, would it be accurate to say that this offering is essentially, what will allow county behavioral health to really play its role in this new deflection system that is being set up?
Yes, I would say that's an accurate statement, because I think, most of our jail diversion programs across the state were underfunded, vastly underfunded. And so to ask us now to take on potentially an increased population that'll be being referred through these new deflection programs that we weren't necessarily fully staffed in the way we needed to be, didn't have the resources and funding we needed to be able to absorb that additional population. So this was just an effort to make sure we were whole and stable to be able to do our part in the work.
Great. Thank you.
Comes to mind, kind of behavioral health is the concept of mental health and or addiction too, right? I mean, that's the way it would break out. So this is both sides of the house on deflection or diversion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't have any more questions. Do you?
Nope.
With that, I'll move approval of board signature of document number 2024-607, amending a grant agreement with the Oregon Health Authority to accept jail diversion funding.
And I will second it. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you.
The next item as well.
Okay, there we go. Not going anywhere.
And this is tied to our previous conversation. So,
So yeah, let's get to it. Item number 8, acceptance of State of Oregon DAS grant.
so we are here today to request board move approval of board signature document. Oh, hang on. Did I just do that one? Sorry. I'm getting them. Oh, no.
622.
Board signature of document 2024-622. It's an Oregon Department of Administration Services grant agreement. So I was before you a couple of months ago, I believe. We were fortunate enough in the short session to also receive a one-time infusion of dollars specifically to the Stabilization Center of $1.5 million. So the legislature asked people to identify shovel-ready projects across the state that were geared towards building up crisis services, housing resources, a number of items. And because our shovel-ready project was more than shovel-ready, fully operational for going on for 4 years now, over 4 years now, we submitted our proposal for this to be included, since there was about a $1.5 million gap identified for fiscal year 25. So we were awarded this money and are very grateful, and we're here today to request approval to accept.
Well, and this is that scenario. We knew we were going to build it and it was going to cost a lot to keep it operating, but now we have partners paying attention to the good work that's being done there. So as I say, developing that building this program, aiming for 24-hour operation. It's good to have these resources coming from the state.
It is.
And Holly, can you remind me, is this impacts program funding?
No, this is straight up one-time legislative investment through DAS of $1.5 million, not related to impacts funding. The impacts funding was the deflection dollars that you were describing, the 700 and some odd dollars that now the sheriff's office is leading. That went through the impacts program through CJC.
Okay.
This isn't, they call it a grant, but there's no real, I mean, it's through DAS. We'll have some reporting requirements, obviously, but it was not a traditional application.
Does that mean that there isn't impacts funding going to the stabilization center?
There still is. Just to make
Okay.
it extra confusing.
Okay.
There's the impacts program, which is through CJC, which we have been a grant recipient of for 4 years now, I think.
they carved out a portion, like they carved out a new program under Impacts for deflection. And they did that because Impacts was already a successful grant program that they could really quickly pivot to release this money for deflection. But they're really two separate programs under the Impacts umbrella, if that makes sense.
I think I have the whole picture now. Yeah, and with that, I would just express great appreciation to the state of Oregon for recognizing that the value and importance of the Deschutes County Stabilization Center and coming through with this one-time DAS allocation.
You're making motions today.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one additional thing I'd say there is that I have great concerns about us being so fortunate in the future. You know, while we can celebrate today getting this $1.5 million award that makes us whole for the moment, I think we very much need to continue our focus on establishing enough stable, long-term local funding that we can ensure that the Stabilization Center can continue to play its important role in our community.
Well, and as we know, I mean, our general fund path is getting pretty narrow right now. A lot of public districts around the state, you know, I've heard feedback that it's, you know, the cost of doing business is going up much more than the revenue line. So yeah, the next few years we may be setting priorities from some of these programs, but as I say, it's been successful and I've been supportive also.
I'll move approval of board signature of document number 2024-622, accepting a grant from Oregon Department of Administrative Services to support the Stabilization Center.
And I will second it. Any other discussion?
No.
Seeing none, Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much.
And welcome, Nicole. Item number 9, we're just rolling right through this today. So application for COHC Community Health Projects Grant.
Commissioners, Emily Horton, Program Manager, Public Health.
Good morning, Carissa Heineke, Deschutes County Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coordinator.
And we are here this morning to move approval of an application for a COHC Community Health Projects Grant to create summer hazards health and safety kits. So we're asking to apply for this grant through COHC to expand a pilot program that we started this year. So we started a pilot program to create these health and safety kits that were distributed to community partners and pre-positioned earlier in the summer so that when we had our first kind of heat wave, they were able to distribute these kits to community members in need. So these are people that are unsheltered or don't have access to cooling spaces and have difficulty getting to those cleaner air or cooling shelters. We know this can be a barrier for people to get to those shelters, and there's a lot of emphasis on making sure that we have places that people can go to cool down, but not everyone can get there or choose to go there. So this is another type of resource that we're hoping can help. And do you have any questions?
So I'm tracking that this year there were 1,300 requests. There were 500, you know, fortunately there were 500, at least 500 kits to give away. Can you give us I mean, is there any further tracking of impact? I mean, can you give us a sense of, you know, the suffering that was prevented, the lives that were saved by having access to these kits?
Yeah, so we are in the, yeah, I'll let Chris.
There you go. There's your expertise.
Sure. Yeah. So as far as how we're monitoring kind of program success for, you know, the pilot initiative, I mean, one way is we do feedback survey from our providers that we gave the kits to. So we have gotten some feedback back from those partners. Overall, everyone really appreciated the resources. We had a couple anecdotal stories where, you know, they stated that they had clients come in who were clearly overheated. They were able to use the kits to help them in the interim time while they waited for EMT support. As far as further prevention metrics. We do have access to syndromic data through our emergency room visits. And so we do monitor heat-related illness as well as smoke-related illness visits. That's a challenging system to keep track of, as it's only our emergency rooms, not all urgent cares report to that. So we do monitor that for spikes and, if there's any increase in visits, and look further into the information there to see if there's any correlation with the target audiences that we're distributing these kits to. So it's a, very small data set. So we do look at that as a way to try to keep a pulse on it. Did that answer the question, Commissioner Chang?
Yes, thank you.
So this is assuming a hot, dry summer again next year and a bunch of people needing help. I mean, whatever, all kinds of scenarios out there. I guess, it really makes me think we've got an opportunity and probably a social and community requirement as elected officials, referring to the Board of Commissioners and the city councils, to help reduce, pain and suffering, but unsanctioned camping is where I'm going with this, and try to, corral things in a little bit more. So I always struggle with how many resources are we providing, and are, people able to take care of some of these situations. It comes down to the water bottle. So we're going to send out a water bottle with a Deschutes County logo on it.
So I hear what you're saying, and
my point is I want to work together. And I think in the near future, we're going to come to a point where we're going to have to make some tough decisions, ask people not to disperse and, spread out and get in these bad situations. And we're all going to have to get through that together.
So I would just say that this is really at the heart of emergency preparedness and preparedness in general. And it really aligns with what we think about when we think about emergency preparedness, which is pre-positioning and having resources available for people to make and take care of themselves wherever they happen to be. So this is not just about unsanctioned camping or people.
No, I was trying to use my words carefully too.
This is also about people that are at home and they may not have air conditioning, or, we know that there's lots of gaps, and there's people that are, whether it's, you want to say suffering, or, they are predispositioned to having more impacts of, their health based on this heat. We have lots of programs that are designed to help, ameliorate those things. So whether it's like, getting ACs or, air filters, this is just another level, and it's a pretty low barrier, and it's a way that we can give back to our community partners and give them a resource that's meaningful. And we've heard back from them that this is a meaningful resource. It's over 5 years, and it's something that if it's not used, it doesn't go bad. So these are kits that can be, like I said, pre-positioned with the community partners that are working directly with these people, so that when there is, a need, that can be distributed then. And we worked hard this year to get that information there. And I think it also just raised awareness around heat illness and smoke, which is something that we as educators are trying to do all the time. Like a big piece of public health and the emergency preparedness section is risk communications about what people can do and what they can look for. So this just aligns with all of those goals really well, regardless of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Understood. So each kit includes water bottle, electrolyte packet, sunscreen, lip balm, cooling towel, Mylar blanket, cold pack, misting fan with batteries, N95 mask, and educational booklet on signs and symptoms of heat and smoke-related illness. So that's the content of what we're talking about here.
And we will have the ability to, change the exact things in the packet depending on what our community partners tell us is meaningful.
And so you think this will empower you to have a 5-year runway in this effort, you're thinking. And then this is just an ask to Health Council for this grant anyway. So it's just starting the process.
Totally. Yes.
Can I ask about, so these kits help address folks who have difficulty getting to clean air or cooling centers. Is anyone using the clean air and cooling centers, or are those just not, are we just learning that that's just not an effective approach in this region?
So I would say a couple things about that, and I'll also let Carissa talk about this too. But I think it's hard to know because a lot of our cleaner air and cooling centers are open all the time. So we're talking about spaces like the library have been identified as a cooling center, shelters that we already have set up. So then we're trying to track the usage of those on a normal day versus a hot day and ask our partners to monitor all of those things, which are difficult, to know. So we do know people do go and access cleaner air and cooling centers. But the level of that access is something that's, not easy to track because, like I said, a lot of those spaces are open all the time. We're lucky that we don't have to open a lot of extra spaces because we have these spaces in our community that are identified pretty much year round, whether it's, like I said, the library or shelters that are already there, or community rooms. Like in Sisters, we have the community room at Parks and Rec that's open for people to go during a normal day. And then Chris, is there anything you want to?
Yeah, and I would just add to that as well, as far as, again, we're trying to get a baseline for utilization data and track that, year over year to kind of see trends or, ways that we can help improve access to that. I think the methodology of using cooling centers and cleaner airspaces, there's not a ton of research on there, but what research has been done like nationwide, I think pretty much the findings have been, while yes, those are important strategies to implement in communities, we also need to be adaptive to the other needs of people, given that there are barriers to access. So this pilot effort of trying to get these kids out into the community is our effort to think outside of the box and try to be adaptive, given the increase in climate-related emergencies that are continuing to occur.
Thank you. And since these are places that are open every day anyway, and which people are using for all kinds of other purposes, we don't need to ask the question, well, if nobody's using that clean air center, then, should we close it down? Because it's open for all kinds of other reasons already. Yeah. Okay. That's kind of where I was going. I was concerned if
there was a lot of resources going to the cooler centers.
And
there are, but like you said, there are already identified spaces that are open.
Right. And serving multiple other purposes. So, okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Nope.
Move approval of an application for a Central Oregon Health Council Community Health Projects Grant to create summer hazard health and safety kits.
And I will second it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Thank you so much. Last item today, item number 10, accept OHA Reproductive Health Services Modernization Grant.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning,
Ann
Ann.
Kilty, Public Health Program Manager. I am here this morning requesting approval to accept some modernization funds for the reproductive health program. I was here a few months ago asking to apply for these funds. At that time, I was requesting to apply for a $100,000 grant. And in the meantime, that was changed. We were awarded $125,000. So the amount has increased. The intent of the use has not changed. We will be using that money to support the salaries of our clinicians in the reproductive health clinics. And that is the funds started, actually the grant was from April 1st of 2024 through June 30th of 2025.
So this comes in light of winding this program down also. And the fact that the program has been underutilized from historical utilization levels. And that means that there's folks that are getting these services other ways, being covered health in the state of Oregon. So that's kind of the big picture as I see it.
Right. Yes. There have been a lot of changes that have led to increased access and decreased need for our safety net clinic. Certainly that doesn't mean no one needs it, but our intent is to navigate everybody to places where they can get services. And take on our role as the local public health authority to assure access in the community. So we will be changing strategies away from that. But in the meantime, these dollars will help support the salaries of the remaining clinicians.
So we'll still be an open door for somebody in need, and we'll get them to the right services, and the services are available in the community.
Yeah, and we're working with community partners to have a strategy for each location where we can, how we can best do warm handoffs.
And I'm curious, so there's this program within OHA to support reproductive health clinics. If the county is no longer a regular applicant for these funds, are some of the partners who are now seeing these patients that need this basic access to care, will some of these partner organizations be eligible for these funds, or?
Absolutely. And we have talked about that with a couple of our community partners, what that would look like for them, the structure that's involved, and some places are really considering it, and some places feel like they can provide access and those services without having to adopt this program, because every time you adopt a program through the government, there's, some requirements that go with it. So I think it may be that other places adopt the RH program, and it may be that they don't, but they still provide access.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, today's the day we're receiving money from all kind of angles here on this agenda today.
With that, I'll move approval to accept a reproductive health services modernization grant from the Oregon Health Authority and authorize the county administrator to sign document number 2024-694 in IGA intergovernmental agreement accepting the grant.
And I will second it. Any other discussion?
We can move all that in one motion.
You can.
Okay.
Seeing no other discussion, Commissioner Chang.
Yes.
And Chair will vote yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners. Thanks for your support.
Yeah. So at this time, other items. Commissioner Adair is in Salem today, and I'm going to be going next Tuesday for this State Interoperability Executive Council effort that I do. There is a request from the audience to hear about the Deschutes County Fair. Any thoughts or anything you want to share, Commissioner?
I think it's almost miraculous every year that our fair is in early August, and we keep managing to miss the worst heat of the summer and the worst smoke days of the summer, because they're falling right on either side of the fair. We've been blessed. I hope that we continue, as long as we continue to operate the fair during this time period. I hope we continue to be so lucky.
Yeah, it's a great history here in Deschutes County. Got to see Kim and her family, Whitney and her family. I think Steve and your wife were out there, so we all got to see each other out there. We had a great county employee family and kids breakfast, so that was well attended. I think that was our most attendance we had ever seen on that breakfast, so that was wonderful to see that. Next day, Buckaroo breakfast Sunday morning, but back to the opening ceremony. It was a celebration of the community, getting everybody together. The 4-H'ers did real well, all the kids. I had a kid just basically grab me and say, "Come see my animal. Here's my card." He had a photo of himself and the animal with his bidder number on it. And he wanted me to bid on his pig, which was just so exciting. What a salesman. And then, lots of great community engagement out there. I wasn't there Sunday. We got a notification the weather came through, and it really got crazy for a little while. But there's always excitement one way or another, seeing the planes coming and going, or being a little bit of smoke or heat or a rainstorm, because we've seen it all out there over the years. Thanks to Jeff and the crew out there at the fairgrounds for really, making that just such a wonderful big event. We acknowledged Mike Scheel, who passed away. He was on the fair board for many years, and also Elton Gregory is the Grand Marshal. So congratulations to him. Any other thoughts? Any other items?
I wanted to share. A couple weeks ago, I was in Sisters, stopped by the Folk Festival operating office, and saw some of the the posters from prior years up on their walls and was commenting on them, and Krista, the executive director, said, we have some extras of mounted extras of some of these, and so she sent me home. She sent me here with a bundle. I only brought one down because they're heavy, but we can note that up in the hall, in the admin hallway, we have Sisters Folk Festival posters up on the wall that are 20 years old. So I wanted to offer these up as a potential refresh for what we've got on the hallway. There's actually a lot of old stuff hanging in the hallways. That's cool. But in many cases we have got like posters that are really, really faded.
Well, you might want to offer something back to them too, because they might think of that as a very valuable piece of history at that
Oh yeah,
point.
no, I said that.
Yeah, there you go.
If we rotate out any of those 2003 and earlier ones, we could send them back to her, and she said, well, she'd be interested in looking at them.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
But this
says 2012 on it.
the one, yeah. This one, yeah, some of the other ones that were some of the other ones she sent me home with are more current than this one, but this one she thought was really special because it has the founders of the Sisters Folk Festival on the poster, Jim Cornelius and Brad Tisdale. And so this is kind of this one would be sort of a timeless poster to put up on the wall in the hallway, and so I'll hand this stack over to the admin team, and they can think about how we could use these. But I figured I'd bring this up during other items so that my fellow commissioners could be aware of what I was thinking about.
Yeah, and we've rotated some things over the years in the hallway, so we'll get rid of the stuff from 20 years ago, you're thinking? That's 20 years or 12 years
there
ago.
might be a really special one from 20
Yeah, I'm
years
just-
ago that we want to keep in the mix, but they sent me home with some really neat ones.
Great.
Canoes, pronghorn antelope, other great things.
Yeah, no, I support
Graphics.
rotating that around for sure. Okay, anything else?
Commissioners, I wanted to close the loop on your discussion Monday under other items related to the letter you received about the draft state wildfire hazard map. Jen Patterson is going to work on an initial draft of a letter for board consideration, and we'll likely bring that back to you early next week for your feedback. But if there's any other specific items that commissioners would like to see included in that letter, encourage you to maybe connect with Jen individually as you're able, just so that draft is in good condition when it comes back to you next week.
Okay. Just looking at my schedule, one item on Saturday, the 10th, this weekend is Antique Fair, Deschutes County Historical Society. So that's folks that have donated items or found different items and different vendors out on the fairground or the front grass at the Deschutes County Historical Society here in downtown Bend.
If we could circle back on that map, I mean, one question I would pose about that letter is, this letter from Craig Letts basically said, instead of using the wildland urban interface map and the wildfire hazard map overlaying on each other, why don't we just use the wildland urban interface map? I think that's actually a very smart approach, but we could be that specific in our letter, instead of just complaining about the hazard map, we're offering a suggestion on how to actually proceed if we wanted to echo that recommendation, or we could say something else. I mean, I personally really hate to just write letters that complain about things and not offer proposed solutions. So,
and that's fine. We'll look at the content of the letter and get down that path. As I say, it talked about structure to structure ignition in urban areas too as a high hazard. So and as I say, the conclusion from our efforts in the past has been the fact that we kind of live in a, wildfire risk area across the whole county, just because of conditions. Any hot wind-driven event could go, quarter mile to 5 miles out with hot embers in any direction. So we can put words in there or something like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Greg's letter said it well. One fundamental problem with the methodology that they used was that they included vegetation.
Treatment.
No, they included vegetation. The foundations of the hazard map are, topography, weather, climate, vegetation. Recognizing that vegetation is fuel, but that doesn't recognize that houses are fuel. And to the extent that houses are fuel, and once you get a fire going in the middle of a city, you have the structure to structure ignition. If vegetation is the only fuel that's really, recognized within the model, it's really problematic, and it underestimates how flammable the core of a city might be.
Jen is tracking the conversation.
Great. Yeah, we'll see what kind of content we can get in there.
Yeah, I know. I basically, I think that a lot of the framing in this letter is really good, and I would be very happy for a letter from us to just sort of borrow.
And then, so one other item I was just sending back through email yesterday. So a medical examiner system study was just completed, medical examiner system across the state of Oregon. So it's really going to evolve into a legislative participation from Central Oregon. And so yesterday I was sending emails, our current medical examiner system here in Deschutes County, plus the district attorney. So that'll come up during our legislative discussions. If we can participate, advocate for Central Oregon, a little more resources. Obviously, the report says we should have regional facilities being able to do autopsies around the state and have more resources. So that's going to be the message to the legislature, and how much can we really, get invested in that. That'll be the outcomes. Okay, anything else? Seeing nothing, meeting adjourned.